The night my pregnant wife sent me to stand in a storm, I thought she was scared. I was wrong. She wasn't scared at all. She was precise. My name is Jeff Swanson. I'm a structural engineer. I calculate load-bearing capacity for a living, which means I spend my days understanding exactly how much pressure a structure can absorb before it fails. I'm telling you that because the cruelest part of everything that happened to me is that I was surrounded by warning signs I was professionally trained to read, and I missed every single one. The rain came down in walls that night, not drops. The kind of storm that makes a residential street look like the bottom of a river. I was standing in the kitchen doorway watching it move through the neighborhood like something with a destination, and Kiana was sitting at the table behind me, both hands wrapped around a mug that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. She hadn't touched it. She was watching my back. I should tell you about Kiana. She graduated top of her medical school class. She had the kind of composure that could lower the temperature of any room she entered. Steady hands, measured voice, the precise emotional control of a woman who had learned very early that feelings were most useful when they were managed rather than felt. I used to love that about her, the steadiness. I used to confuse it for safety. "The cab won't find the house in this," she said. Same voice she used for everything, warm, calibrated, designed to land without resistance. "You need to stand out front so he can see you." I turned and looked at her. Something was wrong with her face, and I couldn't locate what it was. A stillness that felt constructed rather than natural, like a person who had rehearsed this exact moment and was now executing it. I almost said something. I stood there for 3 full seconds on the edge of a question I didn't ask, and then I told myself she was 8 months pregnant and anxious, and I was reading into things because I was exhausted. I grabbed my jacket. I stepped outside. The wind took my hood instantly. I walked to the curb and squinted through the rain at an empty street. No headlights. I reached for my phone, and that's when they appeared. 2 white lights, moving at a speed that made no sense for the weather, aimed at the exact strip of road where I was standing. I had no time to think. I threw myself backward. My heel caught the curb, and I went down hard on the wet pavement, the SUV screaming past so close that the displaced air slapped my face like an open hand. I lay there in the rain, staring at the sky, my palms bleeding. When I looked back at the house, Kiana was in the open doorway, not running, not screaming, just watching. And in the half-second of a lightning strike, I saw her face clearly. She didn't look relieved. Please, before I continue, kindly like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories. The SUV's reverse lights came on 60 yards down the street. I saw them through the rain, white, glowing, steady, and something in my chest went very cold that had nothing to do with the storm. A vehicle that nearly kills a man on a residential street at night doesn't stop. It doesn't come back. The fact that this one did told me, in the language of instinct rather than thought, that what had just happened was not an accident. I got to my feet. My palms were torn, and the rain was washing the blood down my wrists in thin pink lines. I backed toward the house without turning away from those lights. When I glanced over my shoulder, the doorway was empty. Kiana had gone back inside. The SUV crept toward me and stopped at the curb. The driver's window came down. The man inside was older, mid-60s, silver-haired, wearing a full suit at 10 o'clock at night in the middle of a thunderstorm, as if he'd dressed for a meeting that had taken an unexpected turn. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen on a stranger's face before. It was layered in a way that stopped me. Grief sitting on top of relief, sitting on top of something that looked almost like terror, all of it compressed into the face of a man who had been carrying something heavy for a very long time. He didn't look at my face first. He looked at my throat, at the pendant. I had worn the hawk pendant every day since Donna gave it to me at age 7, fished from a shoebox she kept under her bed with old photographs and things she never explained. A small silver hawk, mid-flight, wings angled like it knew exactly where it was going. The initials GH engraved on the back in letters so small you had to hold it close to read them. I'd always thought it was a family piece. Something sentimental from a woman who raised me with more love than most biological parents manage. I had never once questioned it. The man in the car looked at that pendant the way you look at something you made with your own hands and lost and never expected to see again. "Are you hurt?" he said. "Who are you?" I said. He reached into his breast pocket and produced a sealed envelope. He held it through the window. My name was printed on the front in clean, formal type, not handwritten, typeset, as though it had been prepared by an office. "My name is Raymond Voss," he said. "I've been looking for you for 14 months. He paused, and his eyes moved briefly to the house behind me. "And someone knew I was coming tonight." I stared at the envelope. "I don't understand," I said. He looked at me with the gravity of a man delivering the opening line of a story he hadn't written, but had been appointed to tell. "Go somewhere safe before you open that," he said quietly. "Do not open it in there." He said in there the way you say it about a place you already know is compromised. I took the envelope. I sat in the parking structure of a 24-hour diner 4 blocks from my house and opened the envelope in my car with bleeding palms and rain still dripping from my collar. The certified letter was first, my name, my estimated date of birth, November 14th, 1992, a date Donna had guessed from a pediatric physical because there had been no birth certificate, no record, no proof I had ever belonged to anyone before her. I read the words, biological heir, confirmed genetic match, sole living descendant, and my eyes moved to the name beneath them. Gerald Arthur Hartwell. I didn't know it. I had never heard it. I turned to the estate summary, and the number at the bottom of the page was so large my brain refused it 3 times before it landed, $3.4 trillion. I sat very still. Then I looked at the photograph. A younger man, strong jaw, silver at the temples even then, holding a newborn against his chest, his face torn open with love and grief simultaneously, the way a person looks when they are both meeting someone and already losing them. I raised my hand and touched my own jaw. Then I read the handwritten note at the bottom. I never stopped watching the hawk fly. My hand went to the pendant. Outside, in my rearview mirror, a black sedan sat with its engine off, parked directly behind me. Someone had followed me here. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside Kiana in the dark and listened to her breathe and stared at the ceiling and turned Raymond Voss's words over like a stone I wasn't ready to look under. Someone knew I was coming tonight. The envelope was locked in my glove compartment. Voss's number was saved in my phone under a fake name. At 3 a.m., Kiana's phone buzzed on the nightstand. She didn't stir. She was always a heavy sleeper. I counted 60 seconds on the ceiling, then rolled over and picked up her phone. The screen showed a preview from a contact labeled simply T. Did it work? Her passcode hadn't changed in 2 years. I knew it the way you know things about a person you've shared a bed with, without trying to, without wanting to. The phone opened. I found the thread and read backward. "He's outside. Storm's bad. Doing it now. Kiana, 9:47 p.m. Make sure it's clean. The envelope shows up tomorrow. We're out of time. T, 9:31 p.m. I know. He trusts me completely. Kiana, 9:18 p.m. I placed the phone back with the care of a man defusing something. I lay back down. I reached up in the dark and held the hawk pendant in my fist, and something in me, something that had no name yet but felt ancient, went completely still. Donna used to say, "You live like a man who knows the floor won't fall through." Maybe, somehow, I always had. Raymond Voss was already seated when I arrived at the hotel lobby at 7 a.m., already ordering coffee, already looking like a man who hadn't slept either. I put the envelope on the table between us. "How long has she known?" I asked. He looked at me carefully. How long?" He set down his coffee. "Approximately 8 months. She accessed a misfiled genetic screening report in her hospital's archive during a records audit. The file cross-referenced a pro bono adoption physical performed on a 6-year-old boy in Pittsburgh in 1993. He paused. "She is extraordinarily sharp. It took our investigative team 4 years to find what she found in an afternoon." I stared at the table. The building was assembling itself in my mind, the one I didn't want to enter. "The baby," I said. Voss went very still. "Tell me about the baby." He placed both hands flat on the table like a man steadying himself. Then he slid a second document across toward me. Clinical, black and white, a paternity result. The father listed was not Jeff Swanson. I looked at it for a long time without touching it. Outside the hotel window, the morning was clean and bright after the storm, the way mornings sometimes are after the worst nights, indifferent, almost offensive in their brightness. I picked up my phone and called Voss's number back. "I want to meet him," I said. "Whatever time he has left." The call came while I was still sitting in my car outside the hotel. Unknown number. I answered on the second ring. The voice was old, roughened at the edges the way voices get when a body has been fighting something for a long time. But underneath the roughness, it was familiar in a way I couldn't explain rationally. The way a place is familiar when you've never been there but somehow know which floorboard creaks. "Jeff?" Not a question. A statement. Practiced. Like a word he'd been holding in his mouth for years, waiting for permission to release it. "Yes," I said. "My name is Gerald Hartwell. I am your father." The voice broke. Recovered. "I know that sentence will mean very little right now. I know I have no right to expect anything from you. I want you to know that I am dying, and I am sorry. You were never supposed to be alone." I sat in silence for a long moment. "I've been wearing your pendant my whole life," I said quietly, "and I never knew why." The sound that came from the other end of the line was not crying exactly. It was the sound of a man setting down something unbearably heavy. "I know," he said. "I know you have." I came home at 2 p.m. and found Kiana standing by the living room window, her back to the door, laughing into her phone. It was a real laugh. Unguarded, the kind I used to love because it was the only time she dropped the composure she wore like a second skin. For 1/2 second hearing it, I felt something twist in my chest that wasn't anger. It was grief. The particular grief of watching something you loved become something else while you stood there watching. "He came home last night like a puppy," she was saying. "He has no idea." A pause. More laughter. "Stop. You're terrible. Yes, after everything settles, we'll—" She turned and saw me. The laugh stopped. Immediately, like a switch. The composure rebuilt itself across her face in real time. Concern replacing amusement, a slight furrow of the brow, her free hand moving instinctively to her stomach. "Jeff, how long have you—" "Long enough," I said. I walked past her to the bedroom. I opened the closet and reached for the shoebox I'd inherited from Donna, the one I'd always assumed held old photographs. Inside, beneath the photographs, was a sealed envelope I had somehow never noticed before. On the front, in Donna's handwriting, "Open when you need to know." My hands were shaking when I tore it open. The letter was 4 pages in Donna's careful schoolteacher script. She had written it the year before she died. She had known about Gerald Hartwell for 30 years. The man who called 6 months after the adoption, the one with the too calm voice she'd always been afraid of, had told her everything: who Jeff was, what the pendant meant, why the boy had to stay hidden. "I hated him for calling me," she wrote. "I hated him for the choice he made, but I understood it. I understood what it is to love someone so much that you break yourself so they can live whole. I made that same choice by not telling you. Maybe I was wrong, but I loved you, Jeff. I loved you as completely as if you had come from my own body." I sat on the edge of the bed and read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully, put it in my jacket pocket, and walked back into the living room. Kiana stood exactly where I'd left her, very still, watching me with the calculating eyes of someone measuring distance. "Was any of it real?" I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. Just once, just barely, the composure cracked. A flicker, a fracture, there, and gone. "Jeff!" "I need you to leave," I said. "Tonight." Troy Ellison arrived at 7 p.m. in expensive shoes and a professional smile, exuding the practiced calm of a man accustomed to being the most dangerous person in every room he chose to enter. He extended his hand. I shook it. I let him in. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same table where Kiana had watched me walk toward my near-death. Troy placed a folder between us and folded his hands over it like a pastor opening a sermon. "You have no idea what you're stepping into," he said. The Hartwell estate has been contested across 4 jurisdictions for years. You surface as heir, and you become a target. Kiana was trying to protect you. I looked at the folder without touching it. Was she protecting me when she texted that he trusts me completely at 9:18 p.m. during the storm? I said. Or when she positioned me in the path of a speeding vehicle? The warmth in his expression pulled back like a tide revealing rocks. I'm a structural engineer, Troy. I calculate how much weight a story can hold before it collapses. I slid the folder back across the table. Raymond Voss will be in touch. I'd recommend you answer. Gerald Hartwell was smaller than his photograph. Not in height. The man was tall even against the hospital pillows, but in presence, as if the cancer had spent months quietly removing the weight from him, leaving the frame standing, but the substance thinned. His eyes found the pendant the moment I walked through the door and didn't leave it. I sat beside the bed. Neither of us spoke immediately. I looked at his hands resting on the blanket, then looked at my own. Same knuckle structure. Same slight widening at the base of the thumb. I had spent 31 years thinking my hands came from Donna. I have questions, I said. Ask the ones that matter most, he said. I may not have time for all of them. I looked at him directly. Did you ever regret it? He closed his eyes. The monitors beeped steadily. Outside the window, the light was going gold, and then amber, and then the slow, forgiving dark of early evening. He opened his eyes. Every single day of my life, he said. Every single day. I reached out and placed my hand over his. We sat there as the room darkened around us, and neither of us needed to say anything more. Gerald had one final request. Raymond Voss sent a message to Kiana. Not from Gerald, not from me, but from hospital administration, requesting that Dr. Kiana Swanson consult on a private patient's case. Wealthy patient, career-accelerating opportunity. Voss worded it precisely because precision was his native language. She arrived at 11 a.m. in her white coat, badge clipped, tablet in hand, every inch the composed professional. She walked into the private suite already talking, something about reviewing the chart in advance, and stopped when she saw me standing by the window. Then she looked at the man in the bed. I watched it happen. The moment the variables aligned behind her eyes, the last name on the chart, the silver-haired man, the hawk-sharp gaze that matched the jaw that matched the face she'd studied in a stolen photograph for 8 months. The color left her face completely. Gerald looked at her with the unhurried attention of a man who had built a $1 trillion empire on reading people across tables. He asked me to give you one chance, Gerald said quietly, to tell the truth before anyone else does it for you. She looked at me. My expression wasn't angry. That, I think, was what finally broke her. It was just sad. The clean, clear sadness of watching something become irreversibly something else. Gerald Hartwell died on a Thursday morning in April, with my hand in his and Donna's letter folded on the nightstand beside him because I'd brought it so he could read the words of the woman who had raised his son. He wept quietly when he finished it. The dignified weeping of someone who had held grief in for decades. The estate proceedings went public within 48 hours. The number moved through the financial press like a detonation. $3.4 trillion. Every headline asked the same question. Who is Jeff Swanson? Troy faced 3 criminal charges. Kiana's medical license went under immediate review. The child, confirmed not mine, I provided for through an anonymous trust because that child had done nothing, and I was raised by a woman who believed in doing right by people who couldn't yet do right for themselves. I didn't move into Gerald's estate. I bought Donna's house in Pittsburgh, sold twice since her death, and had it restored exactly as it was, down to the pipes that groaned in winter. I kept the shoebox. I kept the pendant. In a new shoebox on the top shelf, I placed Gerald's photograph, Donna's letter, and a note I wrote to no one in particular because I had learned that what you leave behind is the only true record of who you were. 3 words. The hawk flies.